Oh yeah, what I started to say was, yeah, those biscuits. Yeah, put your butter on your biscuit and then put honey on it, on each half in the butter, and that's really good that way too. Yeah, and you can either take your biscuit and cook it in the oven, and then put like a lot of butter on, and then put a strawberry jelly with that butter on half your biscuit, cooked in the oven, or a grape jelly and butter, and it's so good. Or honey. They used to do that all the time at KFC. And what, or Kentucky Fried Chicken, and what else was I gonna say? Oh, a really good meat product I like. That's what I was gonna say. They used to sell at KFC years ago, at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they no longer sell it. They quit selling it about 10, 15 years ago because it's expensive. It's hard to get. That's why they quit selling it. It's not because it's not allowed. It's just it's hard to have it on hand. But they're called gizzards. Um, Gizzards is it's like in a chicken, and from what I know, it's like a muscle in the chicken's stomach. That's what makes chickens different from other kind of animals. But chickens or birds or whatever, they have this thing called a gizzard, and it's like a muscle, and it's in their stomach or like their throat, their stomach, and they have to eat little tiny pebbles. Like if a bird or something or chicken, or your bird like your parakeet or whatever, they sell these little tiny rocks for your parakeets or whatever, your exotic birds or whatever, lovebirds or whatever, or parrots. They sell these little rocks, and chickens do it too. If you see a bird or a chicken and they're eating like in a parking lot or something, they're eating little tiny stones, or parakeets, those little rocks that you buy for them, they have to have those. If they don't, they'll die. But anyway, when the chickens or whatever, the birds eat those little tiny pebbles, it goes in their gizzard, which the gizzard is like a giant muscle. It almost looks like a man's skin. You know what I'm saying on them? Yeah, yeah, I'm talking about. But yeah, it looks like almost man's skin, if you can imagine that. It's not to be sick or nothing, but that's what it's like. But a gizzard is like a muscle. Then those when the chicken or whatever the bird eats, that gizzard muscle in their stomach takes those little rocks, and when they eat their other food, like when they're eating like whatever, it grinds it up. It's like their stomach's way of digesting their food. But anyway, you can buy those gizzards in the store, and a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, it's a gizzard! Gizzards, what are those?" And they don't like them. But if you take those gizzards from the grocery store, I got off topic, but it's like a muscle or whatever, in the birds or whatever, the chickens, and roll it in flour or whatever, like seasoned flour, just straight up flour, and drop it in deep fried grease. And it takes, you have to cook it really good, and you'll see, the blood sipping through, but they're really small. And like get a plate of like 25 or 50 of them, and they are so good. Yeah, you have to cook them all the way through, and it's really tough to eat, but basically, it's the best. If you got teeth and you're like under 30, I mean, you're gonna love them. Don't burn them, but they take like 25, 30 minutes to fry in that grease, and roll them in flour, you know what I'm saying? And then drop them in the grease. It takes like 25 minutes to cook them in the grease, but they're goddamn the best. But that's why KFC or Kentucky Fried Chicken quit selling, because there's one gizzard in each chicken, and that's a lot of gizzards to sell to one person that's going to eat 25 of them. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of chicken gizzards for one chicken to donate for $5. But at KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, we used to work there, you could buy their gravy and put that dang gravy, soak the gizzards after you fry them, and with that flour, that breading on it, put the gravy on them, and they were the best. There's a store where I'm staying at the gas station. They got gizzards, and there's a KFC right next door, and I cannot wait to go up there and get some of that KFC gravy and dip them gizzards. They have gizzards up there, and just yeah, just you can have those gizzards soak in that gravy for like all night. And it's just so good, and just it yeah. But another thing my grandparents taught me. Well, my grandpa and grandma used to, because they didn't have dentures, they didn't have teeth. I mean, they did, but they didn't like to wear them. But my grandma used to have this thing called a pressure cooker, and yeah, she would take a round steak, which round steak is my favorite. But round steak is just like hamburger, but it's steak, but it's not. It looks like hamburger. It's steak, like like a Porter Ohio steak, but they cut it to look like hamburger, but it's not. I don't know. But anyway, Round steak is my favorite. It looks like hamburger, and they're patties. You buy them in the grocery store. It's called round steak. They're like little hamburger patties. They look like, but they're big. And you fry them and roll them in flour and fry them just about all the way done. Roll them in flour and fry them in a little bit of grease, almost all the way done in a skillet. And she would take this pressure cooker like every meal because her and grandpa, well, my grandpa didn't wear his dentures, and she would buy. And she had this thing called a pressure cooker, and she would cook. You can buy pressure cookers now, and they're not even dangerous, but hers were very dangerous. And she would take those round steaks and fry them, and roll them in flour and fry them almost all the way done, and then put them in that pressure cooker. And the pressure cooker it locks, and you cook it on the stove or whatever, and you have to hit it every 5 minutes because the steam will come out. And if you don't, the pot is locked shut. It'll actually explode. But anyway, yeah, she would cook them in there, and that thing it's like steak. It's like a hamburger. It's steak. You know what I'm saying? You can't with no teeth. You can't cook it. You can't eat that dentures. And when she would push it, put it, cook in that pressure cooker, and you like she'd have to tap the top of it every like 30 seconds or like a minute and a half, so the steam lets out, so it doesn't blow up the house like a meth lab or whatever. But anyway, she would after she cooked it, it took like 15 or 20 minutes, and that flour coating, that the breading, the flour on it after that pressure cooker. And you could basically do anything with the pressure cooker like that. And they sell them at Walmart. You can get them, but they don't explode like they used to because they're way better. You could basically like a crock pot. Oh, I got to get one with that one too. But anyway, the flour breading that she would fry those round steaks and then cook in that pressure cooker because the pressure cooker's got a little bit of water and it makes steam in it, and it's like slime, and it's so good. That's how gizzards are, but it's like slimy, the bread coating, and it's slimy, and it's so good. But yeah, those are round steaks, and she used to make homemade noodles and stuff. But yeah, and then what else was like? I saw something else. Yeah, you could basically like take like fried chicken or something. Well, no. Oh, this is what else I was gonna say. This is like kind of like Thanksgiving colonial bullshit in my head. But you know how, like, on turkeys, they say, like on Thanksgiving, that the pilgrims or whatever for Thanksgiving used to pluck those turkeys. Well, I met this one old person, and they said their parents, when they were kids, they were way old when I met them. They said they'd boil turkeys or whatever, chickens, and they'd pluck the feathers out because that's what they were told to do, as their job a long time ago, like in the, like, probably 20s or 30s, 1900s, and they'd have to boil the water. I mean, like boil it and then pull out these stinky bug turkey feathers and pluck them. And you know what I'm saying? That's kind of like when you buy a turkey in Thanksgiving, they're still like that. But they probably have a machine or something that does that. But you got, yeah, not to be gross, but yeah, they told me that those feathers get wet because it's an outside door turkey or chicken or whatever, and you pull them the feathers and they stink, and they could have bugs in them, but they don't, and you pluck them. But anyway, if you go like to the store or whatever and get like a Cornish hen is a whole chicken, but it's like way small, like a whole chicken or whatever. If you get like a chicken or yeah, like even leg thighs and quarters or whatever, and get a crock pot, like you get like a crock pot or a Cornish hen, which is a whole chicken, like a miniature turkey. I think they're like 5 pounds. It's like a miniature turkey, but it's chicken. And get a crock pot. You know what a crock pot is, like low, medium, or high, whatever the crock pots are now. I think they have like a number age, but or a number degree of the temperature. But if you look at it, it'll tell you how. But you don't have to be exact. But with those crock pots, you can put a Cornish hen, which is like what I told you, or your legs and thighs, and put it in there in that water. Not you don't fill it all the way up. You put like a half an inch of water in it, and then they're kind of like laying there, and you can put it in there, and it'll take like you can cook that whole chicken. Well, anyway, if you had chicken, I don't agree with people, your neighbors in town, because it's totally legal having a chicken coop and raising chickens. I don't even want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. But if you had to, no, there's no, but yeah. I mean, if you skin them and cut off the skin, which is totally disgusting. I guess Walmart or meat places packaging do that. But instead of plucking them, you could skin them, whatever, and you could put that Cornish hen or those leg and quarter thigh pieces in that crock pot, which is like a part like quarter of an inch of water for like 5 hours, and the whole thing is done instantly. It's like a little turkey. You know what I'm saying? And you the whole thing, but you make sure there's no guts in or whatever, but then it's not seasoned though. That's the thing, that you can put like salt and pepper or whatever in the water and vegetables and make like vegetable soup. And another thing I like I'm starting to get into cheesy restaurants, but somebody's got an idea of how to live. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend eating that full time, but you get like the white meat, the dark meat, and a crock pot, and just you don't have to pull out the grease or whatever, make it home. Just get that crock pot, put it like low or medium, and put like a quarter of an inch of water, well, like a half an inch of water, so it doesn't dry up in 8 hours. But cook it for like your legs and quarter thigh pieces, or dark or white meat or whatever in a crock pot for like 5-6 hours. And at the end of 5-6 hours, you got all that meat and it's already cooked, and you didn't have to boil it, fry it, no dishes, and it's totally cooked. White meat, dark meat, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And if you didn't hear the other part, I guess I didn't stutter long enough or stupid enough for as old as I am and as bad as the life I've had. But anyway, I was going to say, you take one of those crock pots and you buy, was it pork chops? Pork chops. I don't like pork chops because they have no flavor. It's kind of like chicken. No flavor pork chops. But if pork chops are on sale, get pork chops and put it in those crock pots. And instead of putting water in it, put cream of mushroom soup. And you have to put like 5 or 6 cans of cream of mushroom soup. And you lay the pork chops right in the crock pot in that cream of mushroom soup or whatever. Well, it doesn't have to be totally, because the cream of mushroom soup, after 5 or 6 hours of cooking those pork chops in the crock pot with those pork chops, the cream of mushroom soup will melt. It, like after 5 or 6 hours, it prevents it from burning on the bottom, the heat source, but then it will kind of melt and liquefy after like the first hour or two. But you got to cook it for like 5 or 6, if not 7 hours, because if you eat raw pork, you're going to get sick. But, you want it to taste good as well. You don't want to buy all that pork chop and whatever and wait 6 hours, or like 4 or 5 hours, and not cook it a whole 6 hours. But you get all those pork chops. Like I said, you can put, what I'm starting to say is you can put like half an inch of cream mushroom soup, which is like 4 cans of cream of mushroom in the bottom of that crock pot. And you get like 20 pork chops and pack it in that crock pot and put the lid on it. In like an hour or two, that mushroom, cream mushroom cans at the bottom are going to liquefy. And then all those pork chops are still cooking because of the steam. And then like you got to stir it, check it every couple hours. But in 5 or 6 hours, it makes a pork chop, because I'm not big on pork chops because they have no flavor. But that cream mushroom is the best. You know what I'm saying? And what else is it going to say? But basically, yeah, I guess young adults or whatever, whoever gets this airmail recipe, they can basically, with that pressure cooker, because they don't make them dangerous anymore like Grandma used to have to. I don't know. I've heard of people getting them. My family and stuff have gotten a few, but I haven't had the money. But those pressure cookers, like I said, if you had like a chicken, or a piece of chicken or a fish, you could be creative, or like I said, that round steak rolled in flour and deep fried all the way, and then put it in one of those pressure cookers. It turns it into like a slime because there's water and it makes steam on it, but then it makes that round steak so tender. Like so tender it falls off the bone. You don't even have to like order whatever. You can do barbecue or whatever, but you can like be creative. You could use like fish or whatever, with breading, and put in the you guys can think of, they'll figure out, whoever gets this someday or whatever, use the information whatever they want. But I'm always thinking of other people like me that are slow learners and stuff and need a little extra help. And if I can like stutter, but yeah, I shouldn't do that, because everybody sometimes. But yeah, that's all I can think of for right now.